He left home early to escape his abusive alcoholic father, turning to drug dealing for income. He became addicted to heroin for several years in his 20s until spending time in jail, when he ended his addiction. He was sent to prison in 1965 for low-level drug dealing, and while in prison he met Crazy Joe Gallo, a capo in the Colombo crime family, and Matthew Madonna, a heroin dealer for the Lucchese crime family. Gallo wanted to have a greater presence in the Harlem heroin market, but did not have any personnel to deal in the predominantly African-American areas. It is believed Gallo passed on his knowledge of how to run a drug trafficking organization to him and asked him to assemble the necessary personnel. When Gallo was released from jail, Gallo provided a lawyer for him, who subsequently had his conviction overturned on a technicality. On his return to New York City, he began to assemble his personnel and began cutting and packaging heroin. In 1972, to deal more efficiently with other black gangsters in Harlem, he formed the Council, a 7-man organization consisting of him, Joseph Hayden, Wallace Rice, Thomas Foreman, Ishmael Muhammad, Frank James, and Guy Fisher. The council was modeled after the Italian-American mafia families, where it settled disputes among the criminals and handled distribution problems and other drug trade-related issues. By 1976, his operations spread throughout all of New York State and into Pennsylvania and Canada. According to Drug Enforcement Administration records, his operation in 1976 consisted of 7 lieutenants, who each controlled a dozen mid-level distributors, who in turn supplied upwards of 40 street-level dealers each. He set up front companies to protect some of his assets, such as numerous car dealerships, which appeared to be rented through those companies. The DA eventually discovered the true ownership of the companies and seized the cars, including a Bentley, a Citroën SM, a Maserati, a Mercedes-Benz, a yellow Volvo, and several Cadillacs, Lincoln Continentals, and Ford Thunderbirds. His net worth had reached over $50 million at the height of his career. A New York Times article estimated he purchased hundreds of tailor-made suits, Italian shoes, coats, and jewelry, which alone was valued at over $7 million. During this time, he had become the dominant drug lord in Harlem and was given the name Mr. Untouchable after successfully beating numerous charges and arrests. It is believed while under surveillance, he would often make pointless stops and go on high-speed chases with little purpose other than to aggravate those following him. The council also employed contract killers, including Robert Willie Sanchez Young. On June 5, 1977, the New York Times Magazine released an article titled Mr. Untouchable, featuring him posing on the front cover. The magazine told him that they were going to use a mug shot of him unless he posed for the cameras. He agreed and took the shot. In response to his apparent confidence in his own invulnerability, President Jimmy Carter ordered the Justice Department to intensify its efforts to prosecute him. The resulting prosecutions saw Barnes convicted for drug-related crimes and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole on January 19, 1978. The chief prosecutor in the case was Robert Fisk, then the United States Attorney for the Southern District of New York. While in prison, he discovered that his assets were not being maintained, and the council had stopped paying his attorney's fees. He discovered that one of his fellow council members, Guy Fisher, was having an affair with his mistress. The council had a rule that no council member would sleep with another council member's wife or mistress, so in response he decided to become a federal informant. He forwarded a list of 109 names, 5 of them council members, along with his wife's name, implicating them all in illegal activities related to the heroin trade. He helped to indict 44 other traffickers, 16 of whom were ultimately convicted. In his testimony, he implicated himself in 8 murders. While in prison, he also won a national poetry contest for federal inmates, earned a college diploma with honors, and taught fellow inmates English. After he cooperated with the government by working as an informant, Rudolph Giuliani sought a reversal of his life sentence. Eventually, he was resentenced to 35 years. By working in jail, he earned 2 months off his sentence for every one he served, and was released in August 1998. In 2007, he and his former competitor, Frank Lucas, sat down with New York Magazine's Mark Jacobson for a conversation between men who had not spoken to each other in 3 decades. He became part of the United States Federal Witness Protection Program. His memoir, Mr. Untouchable, My Crimes and Punishments, was published in 2007, and he appeared in a documentary about his gang life, also titled Mr. Untouchable. On January 31, 2008, Howard Stern interviewed him on Stern's Sirius satellite radio show. He died from cancer on June 18, 2012. However, because he was under witness protection, his death was not contemporaneously reported under his birth name, and news of his death only became known in June 2019. Leroy Nicholas Barnes, an American crime boss, active in New York City during the 1970s.